Why were the CNAC pirates called Humpty Dumptys?
Humpty Dumpty? Well, Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, eh? Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. So they figured they're like eggs flying across those Himalayas. Bump into one of them, you get cracked.
What was the attrition like for the Hump pirates, the CNAC?
You mean how many were killed?
Flying over, yeah, just flying over, there's some figures out there saying,
Yeah.
Every so often you lost so many planes, then you'd have to bring in some more planes.
Yeah.
And
So
what was that like?
every few months, we could look forward to a few pilots being lost. And you wondered why, But after you've been there for a while, you knew why. It could be your turn next.
You had a very unusual command to go and buy something in Tibet, right?
Yes.
What was that? Who asked you to do this, and who did you meet, and what was it?
Yes, so in February of 1945, they were planning on landing north of French Indochina. And so they needed horses to go through the mountains to pack the supplies and that. So we went up to hONG, which is north of Delhi here, and close to where the pandas are up there. And from there we tried to find this little creek bed where there's supposed to be a place where we can land. And there's a monastery there, and we're supposed to drop these American veterinary officers up and with this CNC banknotes to buy horses. Okay? So we couldn't find it there, so we had to return back to Chengdu because we ran out of oxygen. And so the military gave us some oxygen there, and we took off again, and we talked to the commanding general of the airfield there. He said he was in there in 1936 when they were pursuing the communists up over the mountains there. And he said they wouldn't stay in the flat line because the National get them. So they went through the 16,000-foot passes, and they'd passed through that region. See? So they said, look for a monastery on the hill there and follow the trail of white. I said, trail of white? He said, yeah, these are the bones of people and animals that died en route to Lhasa. And he told there's 5 major passes through to Lhasa, and that is the central one, and that's the important one. So we picked up that white trail and followed it over 16,000-foot path. Then we could see the dry river bed there and a little place where we can land. So we landed there, dropped the Lama up there who was supposed to show us the way, but when we got him up to 22 to 25,000 feet, he didn't know where he was. Yeah.
And the horses weren't needed anymore, even though you bought.
Well, that was in March, eh? So they started driving them over the passes. So they put them on the airfield at hONG to pasture them, eh? So Colonel Malin, who's in charge of the U.S. section of the veterinary troops up there, he said, anytime you want to go up there, and we'll give you a truck to drive up there. So in June, I got 5 of my friends and we drove these 6x6s and army trucks up to hONG for supply and for them to take care of the horses, eh? Then we were going to go up into southeast Tibet on these horses and visit with the Tibetans up there. But we found out that every shadow of a tree across the trail, you'd have to pull the horses across. Come to a rock bridge, we'd have to pull them across. Then everybody picked up dysentery, and these Americans couldn't stand that too much, so we came back to hONG. We asked for one of the airplanes that was passing overhead to land to pick us up, so that was the end of our trip.
I read an article that was featured, I guess in Canada, about you, and you explained quite vividly about a road trip that you had taken off one of the roads in Burma that was recaptured from the Japanese, and you described what you saw, the people, they were, a lot of people suffering from goiter, I believe.
Oh,
and
yes.
then, women who people just wearing rags.
Yeah.
Can you just give us a sense of that again in this interview?
So this is in the region where the CERS is, and Yunnan Yi, we turn north to go up to the Yangtze River. And there along the road, the people are so poor that their clothes were threadbare. The women up there would take off their tunics in order not to wear out what little they had to plow the fields and work their plants and that. And when you get up in these ethnic groups there, they were just as poor and hungry. Yeah? And this is where all the Lolos, and I think there's 52 ethnic groups up there, and they weren't very well taken care of and looked after because they were in the outskirts, outskirts of the country.
Was your perspective forever changed because coming from Canada, it's completely a different world in general? Was that a real education for you and most of your colleagues?
It indeed was, because no one had ever imagined these conditions before. And coming from my hometown, which is Prince Rupert, 40 miles south of the Alaskan border up in there, it was a state-of-the-art town. It was built to be the terminus of Canada's second transcontinental railroad. So it was engineered that it had water, light, sewage, telephone, and all these amenities. But even in Canada there, the people didn't have any electric lights, no indoor toilets, no running water, and no form of heating. So it's quite a shock to me to hit these conditions out over the Himalayas in there.
You apparently had an interesting experience shuttling a group of very important Japanese, right? And they ended up, one of the delegation members was Emperor Hirohito's brother. Is that right? Do you recall this at all?
Yes.
You were ferrying some people, and you were told that you could take them anywhere they wanted, and you were wondering who these people were.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
So one morning I woke up and I said, "Where are we going?" He said, "Going to Chongqing." So when they came out, they told me that take these people anywhere they want to go. You stay with them. So I said, "But hey, what's that uniform? I've seen it somewhere before." They said, "Oh, this is the Japanese delegation." I wonder how they call it a delegation, because they're army uniforms, eh? So when they got in there, they told us to go to the General Lismo's private airfield south. And I says, "Are you sure? They're expecting you. They know you're coming. You land there and you stay there until you get word on where you're going from there." So we landed, and they took us into town, and they took these soldiers in there. I said, "Geez, maybe they captured them in Burma or something, you know." But anyways, we waited all day in town until 4 o'clock next evening, and they said, "You're clear to go." I said, "Go where?" "Well, go back to work." I said, "We're told to stay with these people, fly them wherever they want to go." "Well, they're going to stay here." I said, "Oh, don't tell me they're going to execute them, you know." So anyways, we took off and headed back to Kunming, and that's when we were later told that this is the Japanese delegation to find, to seek a road to end the conflict over there. So not until, about 10 or 20 years ago was I in San Francisco when somebody said, "Gee, I got an uncle or somebody that was with the U.S. Air Force as a ground crew there, and their unit has written a book. Would you like it? I said, I wouldn't mind. So they sent it to me, and there I found that this guy was at Chikiang. That's about the front lines of the Japanese occupation and free China. And that one day this aircraft came in, and DC-2, Japanese DC-2, and escorted a prince and his other people there to sign the surrender in China. And that was the prince that was aboard the flight going up to Chongqing to try to negotiate surrenders.